Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so forget the usual suspects for a European city break for a minute.
Yeah, let's maybe think a bit differently today.
Exactly. We're heading to Podgorica, the capital of Montenegro. Think vibrant energy, a really fascinating mix of history, and maybe, a surprise or two along the way. We've looked through traveler experiences, Google reviews, and a great piece listing, like a dozen must-sees.
Right, 12 key things.
So this is our deep dive. The aim is really just to give you a proper feel for why Podgorica could be, well, a compelling place to visit, or maybe just learn a bit more about.
For sure, and like you said, 12 top things according to our sources. We're not just going to, list them off.
No.
We want to dig into what makes them interesting, maybe offer some context you might miss otherwise. Where should we start? Back in time.
Sounds like the perfect beginning. And what better place for that than the old Ribnica River Bridge? It's more than just a pretty old bridge, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely not just that. I mean, this structure has seen centuries pass. It was rebuilt substantially in the 18th century.
Okay.
But its foundations go all the way back to Roman times.
Wow, Roman times. Imagine that.
Yeah. In a capital city, these deep historical roots, still visible, still part of the city. And what's really interesting is its location right at the confluence of the Ribnica and Moracha rivers.
Where they meet.
Exactly. That spot would have been important for, settlement, trade for absolutely ages.
And it's not just history. It's a beautiful spot, too. The sources call it a famous landmark, only, a 9-minute walk from the old town?
That's right. Easy to get to. You can just picture taking a walk there, enjoying the scenery where the rivers meet with all the trees and bushes along the banks. It's quite picturesque, apparently.
Yeah, that mix of history and nature sounds really appealing.
It is. It's that combination, I think, that makes these old sites feel so alive. A real link to the past, but woven into today's city. Now, sticking with history for a moment, let's look at something quite different. The Dodgebaya Monastery.
Oh, yeah, the one built inside a cave. That definitely caught my eye. It's a 19th century Serbian Orthodox Christian, right?
Correct. But that cave setting on Dodgebaya Hill is what makes it so unique.
Totally. How does that work inside?
Well, the sources describe these low, narrow cave walls, and they're covered in religious paintings, frescoes, plus monuments and texts.
Wow. Inside the cave itself.
Yeah. And then you've got the entrance, which is more like a typical church porch with 2 belfries and arched doorways, but it's built right onto the natural rock face. It's quite a contrast.
That sounds fascinating, sort of blending the natural and the man-made sacred space.
Exactly. It really highlights how people find and use these unique natural places for spiritual purposes. And it's open daily, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., so pretty accessible.
Good to know. Okay, sticking with landmarks that tell a story. The Podgorica Clock Tower. This takes us into the city's Ottoman past, right? Another layer.
Yep, another layer indeed. Built way back in 1667, and remarkably, it's one of the few Ottoman bits that survived the heavy bombings in World War II.
Really? Survived the bombings?
Yeah, which says something about its construction, I suppose. It stands about, 62 feet, so 19 meters, right in the old town, Star of Aro.
It's a real landmark.
And the sources say it's best seen at night.
They recommend it, yeah. When it's all lit up, you can imagine the old stone against the modern lights. Creates a nice atmosphere, I'd think.
Yeah, that contrast sounds great. And free to visit anytime. Always a bonus.
Always good. So the old town definitely feels like the starting point for understanding Podgorica's history.
For sure. It sets the scene. Okay, let's maybe shift gears a bit. From history to nature.
Good idea. And there's one natural attraction that always makes people smile, I think. The local Niagara Falls.
Yes. Okay. Important clarification here, right? This is not the giant one in North America.
No, definitely not. But it's still a really beautiful waterfall in its own right and pretty easy to get to.
How easy?
Just a 10-minute drive from the city center, apparently. Though you'd probably need a car or a taxi, or maybe it's part of some tours, like to Ostrog Monastery. Right. And there's a best time to go.
The sources mention spring being great. April, specifically. You get the snowmelt, the rains, so the falls are really powerful. Emerald waters, fewer crowds. Sounds quite dramatic.
Okay, powerful in spring. What about other times?
Well, this is interesting. In summer, the water level drops, and
Yeah.
apparently you can actually swim in some spots near the falls.
Swim near the waterfall. That's cool. A totally different vibe from the spring power.
Exactly. A very different experience. So that's the falls. For something a bit more central, there's the Maracha River Walk.
Ah, yes, the river running right through the city.
Yeah, the Maracha is key to the city's landscape. And finding nice spots to walk along, it sounds pretty easy. The sources even suggest a specific route.
Yeah. What's the route?
It starts, conveniently, back at the old Ribnica River Bridge.
Okay, connecting the history again.
Right. Then you follow the boardwalk through Njegosov Park,
Mm-hmm.
across the modern Millennium Bridge. We'll talk more about that later.
Got it.
And then continue to a place called Momishika Plaja, like a riverside beach area for nice views. It takes about 20 minutes, apparently.
It sounds like a lovely little walk. You get the old bridge, a park, the new bridge, the river. A nice mix.
Yeah, a great way to see how the city's developed, from its historical roots to modern bits, all while enjoying the river.
Perfect for a relaxed afternoon, I reckon. Okay, let's turn to culture and leisure. Maybe start with the main square.
Independence Square. Tregnazovisnosti. Sounds like the place to be.
Yeah, described as the beating heart of Podgorica.
Like a classic European square. Right.
Yeah.
Good for people watching, soaking up the atmosphere, admiring the architecture around it.
And there are other landmarks right there, too.
Seems so. The Duke Mirko Petrovich Monument, you can see the clock tower we mentioned, the Parliament building is nearby, and even a Hard Rock Cafe.
A Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah, it really shows its central role. And apparently in spring, it's full of vibrant flower beds. Sound like a popular spot in the evenings, too.
Definitely paints a picture of a lively city center. Now, something for the sports fans. FK Budućnost Podgorica.
Ah, yes, the local football team. And a pretty successful one, it seems.
How successful?
Multiple league and cup wins. The source mentioned they might have been heading for their 7th league title around then. So yeah, a big deal locally.
And their stadium central, too.
Yeah, the Podgorica City's Stadion Podgoricum capacity around 11,000 right in the city. Tickets available at the ground or online, apparently.
So if you time your visit right, catching a match could be quite an experience, a real slice of local life.
Absolutely, a different kind of cultural immersion. Now, if shopping is more your thing, the Mall of Montenegro.
Right, sounds like the main spot for that.
Yeah, one of the country's biggest malls. Seems to have the usual mixed designer shops, but also Montenegrin cafes, pizzerias.
Anything specific mentioned?
A few shops like Penti, Lady D, Intersport, and also a children's playhouse, Santa Fe Playhouse, with arcades and things. So caters to families, too.
Okay, a comprehensive shopping center then. Useful maybe for a rainy day or just picking things up?
Could be. Now, moving from shopping back to landmarks, but a modern one this time, the Millennium Bridge. We mentioned it on the Riverwalk.
Yeah, you said we'd come back to it. It sounds quite striking.
It really does. It's a cable-stayed bridge built in 2005, so fairly recent. Makes a big statement architecturally.
How big?
Spans 568 feet. That's 173 meters over the Maracha River. It's definitely more than just a way to cross.
Right, it's a feature in itself.
Exactly. And the sources really emphasize the views you get from it. Great views of the river and the city, especially, again, when it's lit up at night.
Ah, another one for the evening viewing list. Definitely sounds like a must-see day or night.
Seems that way. A real symbol of modern Podgorica.
And speaking of modern international things, you mentioned the Hard Rock Cafe earlier. It's actually the first one in the whole Adriatic region.
That's what the source says, yeah. A noteworthy detail. So you get the usual hard rock experience, rock and roll theme, music memorabilia everywhere.
Food, drinks.
Right. Food, drinks, live music often. And the shop for souvenirs, of course. It brings that specific kind of, global pop culture vibe to the city.
A familiar name in maybe an unfamiliar city for some listeners. Okay, shifting tone again to something, well, quite grand. The Orthodox Temple of Christ's Resurrection.
Yeah, this sounds seriously impressive. And relatively new, despite taking ages to build.
How long?
Opened in 2013, but construction took 20 years.
Wow, 20 years. What makes it so striking?
Well, the description includes 2 huge towers, 88 feet or 27 meters tall, a big domed roof, Golden crosses, really intricate stonework, chandeliers inside, lots of frescoes. It sounds visually stunning.
It really does. A major landmark.
Definitely. And interestingly, there's mention of one specific image inside, a fresco, I think, that apparently depicts some historical figures in a way that some find controversial.
Oh, really? Controversial how?
The source doesn't detail the controversy, just notes its existence, adds a layer of artistic and maybe cultural discussion around it.
Interesting point. And it's generally accessible.
Yes, open daily, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., free entry. Photography is allowed, just respectfully, of course.
Good to know. Okay, one last thing on the list. A free walking tour. Always a good option in a new city.
Absolutely. Often the best way to get your bearings and hear from someone who actually lives there.
What do the tours cover?
The source mentions a 2-hour tour hitting key sites, like the clock tower we talked about, and the Vasa Brhevich Monument. It ends at a place called Ithaca Library Bar.
A library bar. Sounds intriguing.
Doesn't it? And the big plus, of course, is getting all that historical context and local insight from the guide.
Yeah, invaluable. And while it's free, tipping the guide is generally the done thing, right?
Exactly. It's customary and well-deserved if they've done a good job.
So wrapping this all up, it really does feel like Podgorica packs a surprising punch. You've got ancient history, natural beauty right there, modern stuff, cultural spots.
It's a real mix, isn't it? This deep dive definitely...
It really does. You can see how this capital, maybe not always top of the list for tourists, actually offers a lot for different kinds of people.
A multifaceted appeal.
So a final thought for you, the listener. Considering this blend, the old, the new, the natural, what part of Podgorica sounds most surprising or appealing to you? And maybe think about why a capital city that's perhaps a bit less famous can still hold such a diverse range of things to see and do.
Yeah, something to mull over.
Definitely. That's your thought for the day. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.